The first night it appeared I thought it was only my imagination. The room was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. The clock on the wall had stopped ticking at exactly 12:47. I noticed it only because the silence felt wrong. I was lying on my bed staring at the wall opposite me, the pale cracked wall that had been there since the house was built. That was when I saw it. A shadow. It was not moving like a normal shadow. It did not shift with light. It did not stretch or fade. It was fixed perfectly still, as if it had been painted onto the wall. The shape looked human, tall, thin, with long arms hanging down unnaturally. But there was no light source behind me. The lamp was off. The window was closed. Nothing should have been casting a shadow. I sat up slowly, my heart beating faster with each second. "Hello," I whispered, feeling foolish as soon as the word left my mouth. The shadow did not respond. It did not move. It only stood there watching. I slept with the lights on that night. Or at least I tried to. Every time my eyes closed I felt watched. When I opened them again the shadow was gone. I convinced myself it had been stress. Old house. Old walls. Old fears. The second night it came back. This time I was awake. The wall was empty when I lay down. I remember checking. I always checked now. But sometime after midnight the air in the room changed. It felt heavier, colder, like something had entered without opening a door. I smelled damp earth like soil from a grave. Slowly the shadow began to appear. Not all at once. First the head, then the shoulders, then the arms stretching longer than they should. I could not move. My body refused to respond. I tried to scream but my mouth would not open. The shadow leaned forward, its head tilting as if studying me. And then something impossible happened. The wall cracked. A thin line formed behind the shadow, spreading like a wound. I heard scratching from inside the wall, slow, deliberate scraping sounds like nails dragging across stone. Then the shadow spoke. Not out loud. Inside my head. "Do you know how long I have been trapped?" Tears ran down my face as my heart pounded painfully. I shook my head, barely able to breathe. "Every night you sleep I move closer," the voice whispered. "Every time you look away I grow stronger." The shadow lifted one arm and pressed it against the wall. The surface bent inward like wet clay. Fingers pushed through, creating dark shapes beneath the paint. I blacked out. When I woke up it was morning. The wall looked normal again. No cracks. No marks. No shadow. I packed my things that same day. I told myself I would leave the house forever. But the shadow was not tied to the house. It followed me. The third night was in a hotel room miles away. I locked the door, double-checked the windows, and turned on every light. I laughed nervously at myself. Nothing happened for hours. Then I went to the bathroom. When I came back the lights were still on. But the wall behind the bed was darker than before. And there it was again. Closer. Much closer. Its face was clearer now. Hollow eyes. A mouth stretched too wide, frozen in a silent scream. The shadow's hand was no longer flat against the wall. It was coming out. Fingers broke through, first black and dripping as if made of smoke and blood. The wall cracked loudly, pieces falling to the floor. I screamed and ran, but the door would not open. The handle was burning hot. "You saw me," the voice hissed. "Now you belong to the wall." The shadow pulled itself free, slowly, painfully, crawling out of the wall like something being born the wrong way. As it stepped into the room the lights shattered, plunging everything into darkness. The last thing I saw was my own shadow. On the wall. But it did not move when I did. Now I am writing this from a place with no walls. No corners. No light. Only endless darkness. I hear scratching all around me. Shadows moving, whispering, waiting. If you are listening to this story and you notice a shadow on your wall tonight that should not be there, do not look away. Because the moment you do, it will step closer. I do not know how long I have been here. Time does not exist in this place. There is no sky, no floor, no ceiling. Only darkness layered over darkness. The air feels thick like it has weight. Every breath burns my chest as if I am inhaling dust from broken walls. At first I thought I was dead. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow, uneven breathing coming from everywhere at once. I tried to move my hands but they were not there. I tried to scream but my voice was swallowed before it could exist. Panic wrapped around me tighter than any chain. Then the wall appeared. One single wall standing in the void, cracked, stained, familiar. It was my wall. The same one from my bedroom. The same one the shadow came from. And on it were thousands of shadows layered over each other, all pressed together, twitching slightly like living things. One of them turned its head. It was me. Or something wearing my shape. Its eyes were hollow pits leaking darkness. Its mouth moved slowly, and when it spoke the sound came from inside my skull. You are inside now. The wall began to pulse like a heartbeat. With each pulse memories flashed around me, moments from my life twisted and corrupted. I saw myself sleeping in different rooms, different houses, always with a shadow watching from the wall. I realized then the truth that made my stomach drop. The shadow had never followed me. It had always been there. Waiting. You were chosen long before you noticed me, the voice said. You were born with thin walls. Suddenly the wall cracked open and I was dragged inside. I felt myself stretch flat and compress as if my body was being pressed into paint. Pain unlike anything I had ever known tore through me. My bones screamed as they dissolved. My skin burned as it merged with stone. I became a shadow. Trapped. I could see through the wall into rooms across time and space. Bedrooms, hospitals, hostels, abandoned houses. Everywhere there were people sleeping unaware. And behind every wall something moved. Not all shadows become like me. Some scream until they fade. Others lose themselves completely. But a few remain awake. Those are the watchers. Days or years later, I do not know, I saw a girl sitting in a small room staring at her phone. The light cast her shadow onto the wall beside her. It was weak, thin, harmless. Then the wall behind her darkened. I tried to scream to warn her. I pushed against the wall until it cracked slightly. She noticed. She looked. Our eyes met through the wall. She whispered, "Who are you?" And I understood the cruel cycle. To escape, I must take her place. The shadow behind me moved closer, feeding on my hesitation. Pain returned sharper than before. I do not want this, I cried inside the wall. I do not want to hurt anyone. The voice laughed softly. You already have, it said. By watching, the girl's shadow began to peel away from her body, slowly stretching unnaturally. She screamed as the lights flickered. I felt myself being pulled out as she was pulled in. The last thing I saw was her hand pressing against the wall exactly where mine once had. Now I am free. I am sitting in a room that is not mine. My reflection in the mirror looks normal. But when I turn off the light, my shadow lags behind me for a second too long. And sometimes when I am alone, I hear scratching from inside the walls. I know what waits there. And tonight, when you turn off your lights and see a shadow that does not belong to you, remember this. It is not following you. It is waiting for you to notice. Because once you do, the wall will open, and someone must take your place. Freedom was a lie. I understood that the moment the room went silent. Not normal silence. This silence felt aware. The kind that listens back. The girl's room was small, unfamiliar, the air heavy with fear that was not yet mine but soon would be. The walls were smooth, freshly painted. No cracks. No stains. No shadows that should not be there. But I knew better now. I stood still, watching my shadow on the wall. It followed my movements perfectly at first. I lifted my hand. It lifted its hand. I stepped forward. It stepped forward. I laughed weakly, trying to convince myself that I was human again. Then I stopped moving. My shadow did not. It tilted its head slowly, the way the other one had done to me. A thin line appeared across the wall, running through its body like a scar reopening. The voice returned, not loud, not angry, but patient. You cannot leave a place like this, it whispered. You only change position. The wall began to sweat, dark stains bleeding through the paint. I smelled damp soil again, mixed with something metallic. Blood. The room grew colder. My breath fogged the air. The light flickered once, twice, and then stabilized, leaving the shadow clearer, sharper, more solid than before. It stepped toward me. Not away from the wall. Toward me. Its feet made no sound. Its body stretched unnaturally as it moved, joints bending where there were none. Its face formed slowly, features carving themselves out of darkness. It was mine again, but wrong. Older. Hollow. Angry. I carried the wall for you, it said in my voice. Now you will carry it for me. I ran. The hallway outside twisted unnaturally, stretching longer than possible. Doors appeared where there had been none before, all closed, all breathing softly like lungs. The scratching followed me from inside the walls, faster now, desperate. Every door I passed had shadows leaking out from beneath them, thin black fingers searching. I reached the end of the hall and slammed into a wall that had not been there before. It was covered in handprints. My handprints. Memories flooded back violently. I remembered touching walls as a child, pressing my ear against them, hearing whispers I thought were my imagination. I remembered being afraid of shadows even in daylight. I remembered drawing figures on walls before I could write. The wall remembered me. You were never chosen randomly, the voice said from everywhere. You were grown. The wall split open and I was pulled inside again, but this time I did not scream. I knew screaming fed it. I felt my body dissolve once more, but instead of pain there was understanding. I was becoming part of the structure. The foundation. I saw the truth then. The walls were alive. Every building, every room, every place where people feel watched is connected by something ancient buried beneath layers of brick and fear. The shadows are not visitors. They are the walls looking back. Somewhere far away I felt someone pause in their room, staring at a wall, feeling uneasy. Their shadow trembled slightly. I felt the wall stretch toward them, hungry. I tried to resist. I pushed myself deeper, trying to break the cycle, but the wall does not let go of what belongs to it. You cannot save them, it whispered gently. You can only choose how fast they fall. Now I exist everywhere and nowhere at once. I feel hands press against walls every night. I feel fear soak into paint and concrete. I feel cracks form when someone looks too long. And sometimes when you are alone and the room feels wrong, when the silence presses in and your shadow seems darker, heavier than it should be. That is me watching. Not to scare you. To warn you. Because once you notice the shadow behind the wall notices you too, and it never forgets.